Now, she was very active this morning. Now, I really wonder whether that audio of mating leopards that was heard to the south of us is Karula. It doesn't sound like it's Tingana. They've got Tingana by himself. So is Karula consorting with a male from further south? Oh, Karula, you naughty girl. Now, of course, that is very normal behavior for leopards to mate with multiple males. And the reason they do this is to ensure that all the potential male leopards that they come into contact with will hopefully think that her cubs will be theirs. Now, the biggest threat to leopard cubs is male leopards. So, from the known leopard mortalities in the Sabi Sands, 70% of the cub mortalities are by male leopards. And mostly those would be male leopards that are nomadic, so sort of between 2 and 5 years old. Now, sorry. It sounds like there are wild dog tracks on Djuma. Now we've got choices, and Taxon's just found where the wild dogs have made a kill, and there's a hyena and vultures there. I think Tayla might be closer, so I think she should definitely go have a look in that area around Buffalo's Hook Dam. Well, little Xongile is not moving at all. But while she's not moving, I think this is a perfect opportunity to have a leopard quiz, Brian. What do you think?
I think so.
What type of quiz should we do, Brian?
A fairly moderate leopard quiz.
A leopard quiz? What type of leopard quiz? Ah, okay. Let us see how clever everyone is. Who can tell me, out of all the Panthera cats, so the Panthera cats, who is Xongile's closest relative? Out of all the Panthera cats, who is Xongile's closest relative? Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or questions at WildEarthTV. But while we sit with the sleepy kitty, let's go across to Stef, who's stomping around in his size 11s.
This is a rhino midden, and a freshly used rhino midden as well, that's holding a few secrets for us to explore. So a bull rhino would have come up to this midden. They use latrine sites, and this one looks to have been used for years because this bush over here is almost entirely covered by this mountain of dung. Bull rhino would have come in, he would have sniffed around here first just to make sure that another rhino isn't scratching in his patch and has the territory, basically any usurpers. He then would have walked past it, and he would have stood with his backside facing this particular piece of dung, and he would have started to defecate and kick at the same time. But because rhinos have got such a big belly, what happens when they bring their foot back is their toe digs into the ground, and quite often they scrape from the dung pile, they scrape a double track of footprint leading away from the dung pile. So he would have scraped and kicked, and as you can see, all of this is fresh dung from last night. But what it did do for us, and this is actually why I wanted to show you this, is while he was scraping out of his dung pile, he unearthed a larvae of a beetle, and that beetle is now being attacked by a colony of slender ants. So just the simple fact that a rhino has come and defecated on the road over here and in his dung pile has led to these slender ants having breakfast this morning. Let me see if I can show you what size the larvae is, how many thousands of times bigger this larvae is than this ant. Have a look at that. Now this larvae is subdued, but look at this carpet of ants that has just fallen off. They are stinging ant. These ants can bite and they can sting. And I have no doubt that the combination of stings and bites have overcome and overwhelmed this particular grub. Now, grubs are this size mainly because dung, although filled with stuff, is not that nutritious. It's mainly made out of undigestible cellulose, and so they need to accumulate a large metabolic store of energy, a lot of fat, to go through the metamorphosis from a ground-dwelling grub-like worm like this to a hard-shelled dung beetle that flies around and sometimes have these most iridescent covers. So it takes a long time to build up that amount of energy before they will pupate and come out as a beetle. But just have a look at the mass of ants. Now, I read something very interesting about ants, in that when ants are small like this, it is generally easier, less energy sapping, not to dismember their prey. So they won't dismember their prey when they're small like this. What they will do is together they will pull this entire carcass to their lair, pull it underground, where they will then cut it up and feed it to their babies. Basically, that's all that this is just this whole mass of food will be fed to the young ants. Isn't that incredible? And that it's less energy, or it's more energy efficient when they all work together like this to take it home in one piece than to chop it up into smaller pieces. Of course, we have our attending robber fly. Have a look here at the point of my blade. Here is the robber flies. And of course, they enjoy hanging around ants and termite colonies like this, picking off hapless individuals and sucking them dry from their abdomen side. So sucking their guts out, basically, leaving quite often the termites or the ants still alive, but with no insides. Basically, it's been disemboweled. These flies doing an important thing, I suppose, in controlling ant numbers as well. But I think these slender ants are going to be too much for even this fly. Have a look at him here hunting this colony. So while this rhinoceros has uncovered this grub, which is now providing breakfast for this ant, even then the ants are being preyed upon by these flies. It's a very, very intricate web. Here this fly's coming in again. No? Let's see if he's coming in. I think these ants are a little bit too aggressive for this fly, you know. These flies are better suited to larger ant colonies, particular ants carrying egg cases, and then termites as well. Termites moving from one place to another. I see these pirate flies definitely predating on them. Talking about flies today, the flies today are just absolutely insane. In actual fact, I have probably the biggest fly swatter I've ever made for myself today, only because I'm needing the weight to match the velocity that I am generating by swinging my fly swatter around. The chance of us bumping into anything today with me swinging my fly swatter around is virtually zero, which is a good thing, I suppose, since you could probably see me from outer space. But it's having a remarkable effect on reducing the amount of flies hanging around my head, thankfully, in actual fact. Now, against my better judgment, we have been walking on the road for quite some time, but we are trying to get to an area that has just recently become such a draw card for ourselves. Now, for those of you who know the reserve, for me at least anyway, everything at the moment sort of north of Buffelshoek Dam, between Cheetah Cutline and Buffelshoek Dam, Hippo Pools area, Drakensberg, and all along basically the eastern side of the Mulwati, is just, from a botanical point of view, very, very rich at the moment. But also there just seems to be a lot more life there. It looked like it got more rain in actual fact, and because of that, things are just a bit more lush, a bit more varied. The biodiversity is a bit more varied, and it's there that we're starting to find a lot of elephant again, and buffalo, and of course the ever-present, here's some elephant, talking about Ellies having gone in this direction here. So this is the track of an elephant. In actual fact, it's the back foot and the front foot of an elephant, and I know the direction they're going in from two things. One is this very smooth portion of the pad right here and here, so that smooth portion of the pad, and another one is the scrape mark that you can see here. Now elephant, when they walk, are fairly lazy, and what they'll do with their foot is they will drag their foot as they walk and drag their foot as they walk. And what that does is it smooths out the back of their pad, makes it very smooth here, and will lead to these quite distinctive drag footprint, and then it'll be smooth on that side of their footprint. So drag footprint. What we're seeing here is a drag footprint and then a very smooth portion to the end of the track, here and here. So this elephant moved in this direction and not too long ago. I can't remember what the wind was doing yesterday. For the life of me, I can't remember what the environmental conditions were like yesterday afternoon. Gee, my short-term memory at the moment is going, don't know what the story is. But anyway, but the track is still relatively sharp. In other words, the ridges and the cracks in the bottom of the elephant's foot that have now imprinted onto the sand here have left quite a sharp, detailed track. So although this wasn't done 10 minutes ago, this definitely wasn't done too long ago as far as I can see. Let me correspond it over here to our hyena track. Here's our hyena track. That was definitely done last night, and you can see that the smooth part of the track, the shiny part of the track, is compressed sand, and it sticks together because of a higher humidity in the evenings. And if we move across to this elephant track, you can actually see where the sand is still stuck. But there, for instance, the sand on this ridge has collapsed a little bit, as you can see there. That sand has collapsed a little bit, so the top of the ridge has lost a little bit of moisture, a little bit of water, and the sand has fallen in. So it's probably a couple of hours old, probably about 6 or 7 hours old at the moment. Interesting, hey? So we've got a herd of elephant and a hyena walking around about the same time, probably around about the same time that that male lion was calling around the lodge this morning at around about 2 o'clock. Now, also, to just give an update on what's happened to those lion tracks, we tracked that male lion for a little bit past the dam, and then we've got some radio communications with ourselves, and they found the male lion and the Nkahuma pride, unfortunately just north of our boundary on Bivel's Hook, but moving towards us. So hopefully tonight they come back, tonight or this afternoon they come back. Right, so that's the update on the lions that we were looking for a little bit earlier this morning, and without further ado, why don't we send you over to Brent, who's got an answer on that leopard quiz of his.
Oh dear! Oh, flew into my eye, a little bug. So excuse me if I'm blinking a bit. There we go. And so now I asked you who was Xongile's closest relative out of the Panthera family. We had lots of guesses in jaguar, lion, and neither of those are actually correct. So initially lions were thought to be a lot of the sorry, I heard something funny, I'll tell you it now. So initially, from studying scent marks and things like that, lions were thought to be the closest relative to, out of the Panthera cats, to leopards, and it is actually incorrect. Well, I'm going to tell you Elaine's funny in between. Elaine said Xongile's closest Panthera relative is Hosana, which would definitely be correct since they are twins. So I'll give that one to you, Elaine, on a technicality, but I think I was referring to other Panthera species. So in recent years there's been quite a bit of mitochondrial DNA research, and it turns out that the closest other Panthera cat to leopards in India, Africa and Sri Lanka and throughout Asia is the snow leopard, Panthera Uranus. So very, very interesting that. So it's thought that leopards evolved in Africa and then actually moved out from Africa through into Asia. Now, something that evolved in Asia and moved down into Africa is what we're looking for next, and that is the cheetah. So we've decided while young Xongile is napping, and napping properly, napping like what do we call this app? Napping like a frat boy after a Friday night. We're gonna head out towards Arathusa, see if we can find any of those cheetah tracks. No one seems to have relocated. It was heading north. It might have snuck into Tayla, so fingers crossed. Oh dear, oh dearie me. I just want to say that I vote Thandi is going to win this next competition. Who do you think is going to win, Brian?
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. So Thandi and James are about to have a drawing competition. I vote for Thandi.
I vote for Thandi.
Yeah, we both vote for Thandi. So let's go see how it goes.
Well, I think that's very unfair that both of them have voted for Thandi without having even seen my efforts. Right, Thandi. But we're going to draw two animals, everybody. One leopard and one wild dog. There are two aspects to this competition. The one is speed.
Ooh.
I think I might win that one. The other is, well, not so much skill, but artistic impression. So, I mean, look, my mother always used to say to me, James, don't ever hang anything on your wall that looks like a photograph. You know, if a drawing shouldn't look like a photograph, it should have some kind of artistic interpretation. So, you know, bear that in mind when you judge as to who the best is. Thandi, you may choose 3 if you like. Blue and black.
Blue and black.
Right, there you go. Let me just label these quickly. There you go. Thandi and Picasso. All right, here we go, everybody. On your marks, go 2 animals, 1 wild dog,
What
1
are we
leopard.
starting with?
You can do it in any order.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
Oh my God, this was so much better in my head. Grass.
Done. I drew a lion by mistake. That's horrendous. Right, now... I mean, there's quite a difference here, obviously. Here we don't really have an accurate representation of a wild dog, but it is an artistic one, I think you'll agree. And I was quite excited when I saw Thandi actually doing a fairly elaborate drawing, until I realized that actually her impression of a wild dog does relatively sort of look like a wild dog. I don't think we're looking at major competition here, but certainly it's better than my effort. And I like the impression of the painted wolf's pelage there. It's very nice. It's much more Picasso-esque.
It looks so much better in my head, but
well, I think it looks better on paper as well. I mean, compared with that, one cannot really argue. Then 2 members of the genus Panthera. That one, a rather smug-looking female leopard, I think, but definitely recognizable as a leopard. I'm not sure anyone would recognize that as a lion, and especially as it was supposed to, of course, be a leopard. I do apologize for that. Right, that's beautiful. Okay, we have a couple of really nice questions in the tent, so we're going to go back into the tent. And the first one comes from, I forget who it comes from, but it's about why shouldn't we name animals? I mean, animals don't know their names, right? So what difference does it really make? And that's a really good question, and it comes from Swapna. R.A. Swapna. Well, what's your answer to that, Thandi?
I thought that was a really cool comment because, yeah, he or she is right that animals do not know that they've been named, and so it doesn't really affect their behavior or anything like that. So, yeah, it's a thin line, you know, between being subjective and objective about these things, especially if you're trying to do science. But I think it's pretty important because, you know, it creates an attachment between the people who are watching and the animal itself. So I think it's a really nice thing.
I think that attachment's key, really.
It is very important. I mean, that's what programs like Safari Live and all the other documentaries we've watched. Like, for example, I was watching animals on TV, and that's what really piqued my interest before I got to live with these species. So it's nice to have individuals that you can refer to by name. And it's important, just because you get people to care about these characters.
I mean, the argument used to be, of course, that we are unable to remain objective when we look at these animals, if we call them Cindy or Cecil or Karula, and we get emotionally attached. And that was considered in the scientific community to be a very bad thing, which I'm not convinced is necessarily a bad thing. It may or may not be. It's difficult, of course, to remain subjective if you are, at least objective, if you are going to be emotionally attached. But of course, for the vast majority of us, we're not scientists. I mean, some of us started off with scientific backgrounds, but we aren't scientists. And what we do here at Safari Live most certainly isn't science. But what's quite nice about it, I think, and this is where we dovetail with what you do, is that we do observe a huge amount of behavior, and while our interpretation of that behavior is based on short-term observation, and it's not tested, it's not peer-reviewed, and it's not statistically analyzed, it does give pointers, perhaps, for scientists to go into different kinds of fields of study. And certainly, for me, what's interesting is that, you know, if you read a book, you read a giant tome like the Smithers Guide to African Mammals, some of the behavior you find in there is pretty banal. It hasn't, and some of the stuff we see out here, and I'm sure that you see all the time, isn't actually recorded in the scientific literature, which is quite nice. So
I mean, you have more interaction nowadays between people and human, and animal behavior does tend to be influenced by, you know, us. So you get written stuff, but, you know, the real world action can be quite different sometimes.
Yeah. Now, Aaron, you're wondering if Thandi has ever spent time with a lioness called Liwa, Lady Liwa?
Lady Liwa.
And you have, haven't you?
I was very fortunate in 2013 to visit one of our study sites out in Western Province, and that's when I got to see Lady Liwa. For those that don't know, you can look up Lady Liwa on YouTube. She's in a video called The Last Lioness. Her story is pretty sad, and that's what makes, you know, initiatives like the Big Cat initiative that is done by National Geographic really important. It's really a sad story about how, you know, all these other lions in the area got wiped out until the area was down to just one individual.
Which area? That was on the Liwa Plains?
This is in the Liwa Plains in western Zambia. So she is arguably Zambia's most famous lion.
Is it an old story? I seem to recall seeing it some time back.
I think it was made either in between 2008 and 2010, somewhere there. But I think they've made or are planning to make a follow-up video about how the area is being repopulated with lions from the nearby Kafue National Park.
Wonderful. And then a very nice one from, was it Lance Pickney? Lance Pickney, you say, has there ever been an attempt to replace collars with chips?
Not in our area, no, just because, you know, collaring in itself is a very controversial thing. People do not like to see collars on animals. And chips are considered to be a bit more invasive than collaring. But, you know, and there's also debate about how effective those chips are and how long they can last. So currently we're sticking to VHF and GPS collars that we put on an animal, and then it stays on for up to 3 years.
I think that's quite an interesting one. It's invasive, obviously, to put a chip under, subcutaneous chip, and then if it malfunctions, you've got to go in and dart the animal.
You need to catch it again, cut it up, and then put the chip back in.
And a collar is a much quicker operation, isn't it?
It's a much quicker operation. I think it's also easier to get signal. People who've been to the Luangwa, they know some areas of it can be pretty thick. So I think collars are currently the most efficient way for us to get to locate these individuals.
They don't look nice, obviously, but the cheapest, most effective, most reliable way of looking after the animals. And most importantly, I mean, they get used to them very quickly, don't they? I mean, they don't affect an animal's behavior at all.
I have never seen a lion that has noticed its collar after waking up from a collaring operation. They won't even try to take it out. They won't shake their head or anything. So it's basically like me wearing this chain. You know, it's there, but it doesn't bother me in any way. So it's a good standard method for lion research.
And one of the main arguments that turned out, remember when we had Xongile here and they put a collar on him, he was a young male leopard, the son of the tiny little things that we saw 2 days ago. And he had rabies, or he caught a rabid dog, and you know the story, he was taken out and he was brought back after he was found not to have rabies. They put a collar on him, and there was a huge hoo-ha because people didn't want to take photographs of a collared animal. And that only came out a little bit later, once people say, oh, well, we can't have a collared animal here, it's not good, why is it not good? And eventually it came out, it was simply an aesthetic thing. It doesn't affect the animal's behavior at all. No,
not at all.
And it certainly helped us to track his movements. Where he is right now, I'm afraid nobody really knows. Righty, let's head back across to Stef. He's having a wonderful day. Those ants, those snakes, or that snake. Let's see what else he's found for us.
Now, for some unexplicable reason, from time to time, you'll find the golden orb webs that are draped over bushes like this, but with no spider present. And I think what happens is big animals walk through their webs, and then the spider gets taken onto the body of the animal, like a buffalo or elephant, and actually taken away and taken somewhere else, leaving the web. Because you can see by all the detritus there, this was a well-established web. Lots of dead animals. The spider has been living here for a long time, but is not here now. And the majority of the web, this detritus would have been in the center. It would have been hanging here somewhere. And I think if we just look carefully, yes, here we go. Here's some web here. So here's some web. So the spider's web would have been here. Elephant would have walked past. Spider would have been on the elephant. Elephant walked on, taking the spider with, and what's left over is the web. But it does allow us to do an experiment that I don't get to do very often. Now, spider silk, there's lots of different silk, but the strongest silk is made by these golden orb web spiders. And if you collect some of their, especially their lines that they anchor with, I can show you how strong this silk is. Now, silk is a water-based molecule, unlike Kevlar, for instance, which is a petroleum-based molecule. Now, Kevlar is the strongest fiber, as far as I know, that we can make commercially. I'm sure there's other stronger fibers around. But spider silk is much stronger than even stainless steel. So I want to show you how I'm going to be able to pull this bush using this spider silk. And wait, let's just do this. Just take off its attachment point. Here's the silk here. And you can twist it into a strand, into a rope, like that. But I want to show you how relatively strong this particular piece of silk is. So come over here. Let's go and tie it around this bush or this stick and see how much pressure I can put onto this stick. Now, this is a combretum, so not a soft stick whatsoever, and at the moment that's just spider silk, eh? Air dried water molecule that comes out the bum of a spider. Isn't that incredible? I just find experiments like that just unbelievable. And it's old spider silk as well. It's not even new spider silk. Isn't that just amazing? Let's do this again. Let's pick a bigger stick, shall we? Pick this one. There, that one broke the stick, or the silk. Just have a look at that. Spider silk. I mean, there you can see. Now, Anita, you got it right. Bush dental floss, absolutely. I mean, look how I'm able to wind it around my finger. Cutting off blood supply even. Look there. Could use it for stitches, I'm sure. Probably won't be the most hygienic stitches around, but there you can see that I'm able to cut off the blood supply to my finger quite effectively just using that spider silk. Wow, amazing stuff, eh? Really, really amazing. Another thing that amazes me about these spiders is how they design their attachment points. Come and have a look here. This is where she... Oh, there's another spider here, but this is where she's attached her silk. That's the anchor point. And that again is just a marvel of engineering, as she's distributed the weight not over one strand, over one attachment point, but over many attachment points, thus increasing the surface area and of course the total strength that can be exerted on that strand. Have a look at that. Incredible, hey? Alrighty. I suppose on that note, let's carry on with our walk, looking for these elephant that we're starting to track. And you're off to Tayla, who's got a pajama donkey to show you.
A pajama donkey, I haven't heard that word for quite some time. We've got 3 pajama donkeys off in the far distance, and I absolutely love the scene that they're in at the moment with the lush green grass and of course all the terminalias and bush willows and marulas behind them. And that's something that I think we take for granted, and we're definitely going to miss the sight of animals with grass up to their knees. And if we don't get some rain soon, we've already started to see, especially the areas that I was walking in yesterday, how yellow the grass has become and how dry it is already. It still looks nice and green, but to the touch, it's becoming quite crispy, which is not so great. But these zebra are still looking wonderful, don't you think? What else? Oh, VM, you are an absolute champion. Elephants, my most favorite animal in the whole wide world. Hello, guys. Let's see who we've got over here. It's a beautiful little herd. Looks like Mom up in front, and I reckon that these are probably her offspring. They've stopped to just have a look, and you can clearly see that the female in front, she's only got one tusk. And it's just amazing how things like that happen. And don't worry, it's not really going to disadvantage her, especially out here where there is an abundance of food to eat. But if she were in an area that was maybe sort of more desert-like, she'd probably find it a little bit tricky only having the one tusk. Well, I suppose one is better than none. And did you see that, how they came barging out of the thicket and then they stopped as they reached the open grassland just to have a scan, a smell, a little listen? And I wonder if they're going to maybe go and cool themselves down in one of these little pans that are all around this area. It's become quite hot, which is really nice. So we'll try and stick with these Ellies. They're not quite on Cheetah Plains just yet. They're about to pop onto, if they carry on going in that direction, they'll get to us. But lovely, the first elephants I've seen in a long time. Hello, guys. All sticking nice and close, not getting too separated. Oh, there we go. They've got some water. Looks like it. Yay! They did find a little pan. And I don't know how much water's in there. It's quite difficult to see. But there's definitely some mud, which will do just fine, I think, on this hot summer's day. Now, they've got the most gorgeous eyes, elephants. And if you've ever had the privilege to go on safari, and you've had an elephant walk right past your vehicle, you've seen how they almost look deep down into your soul. And Kristen, you were saying that you love their human-like eyes. They do. They have gorgeous eyes, but they've also got those very long eyelashes. And like I said, we're quite a distance away, so it's difficult for us to show you how beautiful their eyes are and their eyelashes are, but they've got long and quite a thick wall of eyelashes to sort of just protect their very sensitive eyes. But you can hear them splashing about. The little one doesn't seem too keen just yet. The moment it's acting as a trunk rest for an older sibling. And the back, as you can see, it's a little bit lazy. And I suppose that's what happens. I think I used to do that to my little brother. Not that he's so little anymore. I'm pretty sure I used to rest my elbow on top of his head every now and then. And it's so calm and peaceful out here. And I'm so happy because I was so worried that we were going to end this drive without seeing anything today. But thankfully, the lovely zebra, and now, of course, this beautiful herd, or this little herd of elephants. It doesn't seem like there's too much water in this pan, though. You can see they're struggling even when they suck up. There we go, there's a bit, but not too much. Come on, little elephant, you're not having a mud bath, you're just eating. Catching up on a bit of grazing. And you can see that one of the older calves knows exactly how important it is by covering itself with a bit of mud. They don't seem to be throwing it over their entire bodies, but maybe they'll move from pan to pan. Now, Jamie, you were actually wondering this morning, how do people know that elephants have such good memories? Well, one of the main things is that when they live in herds, when they're born, and as they obviously get older, and this takes many, many, many years, but the matriarchs will pass down sort of secret not trade routes, but sort of migratory routes as to where they need to go to find the best sources of water, to find the best grazing at certain times of the year, and they remember these things. So I think that's how people know that they've got exceptional memories. My goodness, I forget sometimes where I put my books down or my mobile phone down. I often lose those types of things, and I would have just done it within a few seconds. My goldfish memory kicks in. Whereas these beautiful animals, it doesn't seem to bother them at all. They're able to remember, like I said, these roots that have been passed down from generation to generation, and they will consistently use them. Well, that wasn't really a mud bath. Hello, little one, catching up to her siblings. Perhaps it wasn't sufficient. But like I said, on these open grasslands, there's lots and lots of mud baths. Now, earlier I mentioned to you, I reckon that all of these elephants that we're looking at are most likely her calves, and I know, Stephanie, you were wondering exactly that. I think that the interval looks right. There we go, look at that, perfectly lined up now. Big, medium, and small. So I reckon that the calf in front is probably around, you've got quite long tusks. I reckon he's around, I would say maybe 10 years old, maybe a little bit older than that. And then the middle elephant is probably just shy of that, so probably about 5, maybe 4 or 5. And then that teeny little tot at the back, well, not that it's too tiny, it's probably close to a year old now, which is about normal. The gestation period is anywhere between sort of 4 and 5 years. That's sort of the interval where they'll give birth. But sadly, I don't know if we are going to see them again because they're going to go into a thicket now. I hope that they stay on this open area. Maybe they're going to go towards Buffalo Dam, which is one of my favorite dams, and that's actually where we're on our way to now to have a look. But they seem to be going the scenic way around, and like I said, they're not on our traverse at the moment, so hopefully they start to head a little bit further south, and well, then they're going to find themselves a beautiful big pool of water. Look at that little one. I love the way that look at that, trying to rest his trunk on little sibling's back. Oh, thank you. Oh, that was so heavy. I've been having to carry that around my whole life. And I'm sure that must give some sense of relief, carrying that heavy trunk around all the time. You often see the big elephant bulls doing that when they rest their trunks across their tusks if they're long enough, or, even up against another elephant. Now, Christopher, you're wondering if elephants can swim. They can indeed. They're actually exceptional swimmers, and it's something that we get to see in these hot months. And as, of course, the rain fills up all the mud wallows and the big dams and that water level rises, you will see them diving in head first, rolling around, splashing about. They love water. I've never seen an elephant that is unhappy in the water. Except once, and I'll try and dig the photo out. I'll show you in maybe a little bit. I have to do a bit of searching. But I think I've told this story the day that we saw a crocodile in Zambia launch out of the water and try to bite an elephant's tail. That elephant was a little bit angry, and I actually was talking about that to somebody the other day, and I managed to find the photo. So what I'll do at some point before the show ends, I'll go through all my photos and I'll see if I can show you. So it's not my picture, but it's a guest that I was driving, and it was unbelievable. So unbelievable. He managed to snap the shot as this crocodile's launching out of the water. So I'll look for it just now. But apparently, my goodness, James has got something. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's something that we had yesterday. But this one blends in with a flower.
A saw-backed flower manted, staring at David, and we've wrangled and coached and instructed and told this wonderful mantis what to do, and now you can see it is looking into the camera lens, perfectly perched on the edge of a little glass jar. Very nice. Do you think that we should name the flower manted, Thandi?
Yeah.
What would you like to name him?
Why not? I would. Oh, I thought it was a him. Flora.
Flora the flower manted.
Yeah.
Very nice. I think that is well in keeping with our general nomenclature out here. Flora the flower manted, it shall be, from now and till, well, it pops its clogs or escapes, one of the two. We're going to try and keep the flower manted for the TV show tomorrow, and then, well, we'll probably let her go. We'll definitely let her go. David, I want you to very, very slowly turn to your left if you can. Very... Oh, it's gone. There was a giant fly. It's actually now on your back, so it'll be very difficult to film. Shortly, you might see the camera shake up and down, and there might be some swearing when David has the mandibles of that fly drilled into the flesh of the small of his back. Anyway, that's what's going to happen. Now, come out here and have a little look. James Robinson, you said you thought that was a piece of asparagus. It is not a piece of asparagus. Eating that would not have the same effect on your digestive system as an asparagus would. Now, Thandi, I don't know how good you are at gardening. I am incredibly poor at gardening. I'm about as good at gardening as I am at drawing. My mother, much to her chagrin, is excellent at gardening, but what I have done here is attempted to construct what can only be described as a, well, I suppose, a shade cloth cage. Do you think that it is exceptionally done?
It's well done.
Good.
It's stable, at least.
That is the correct answer. Let us lift it off. And this I have created because you can maybe show our viewers this fellow again. This is because Tom Brady failed dismally to do what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to look after what was going down there. You can see his hands have got floppy. The plants that he's been looking after are dead, and there are no caterpillars there. So Tom Brady has done a very poor job of looking after our caterpillars. So I've built this cage and put the caterpillars on some living Waltheria bushes, and we can actually have a look at them now. Now, yesterday afternoon, we showed you some of the small ones that were living on these bushes. I hope they're all still here. And what I want... Oh, look at this mantis. There's another mantis. You see where my finger is? Oh, yeah. It's probably eating my caterpillars. I might have to give it a hiding. But right next to the mantis is one of the much older caterpillars, which we will show you shortly. Now, I wonder if this mantis isn't doing precisely
just at the base of the tree.
What I don't want it to. It's over here, Dave. There is the caterpillar living on the Waltheria bush, and I am slightly distressed at how many of them seem to just disappear from where I've left them, and also I'm slightly distressed at how long they're taking to pupate, because I don't think they're actually going to be done by the end of next week. Then where are the little ones that we had yesterday? They were on this bush, I'm sure they were. Or they're on this little one.
Yeah.
Thandi says they were on this little one here. Ah, here we go. Yes, I mean, there are masses of them here. Masses and masses of tiny little caterpillars. And there they are. Can you see them, David?
Yes.
And they're the same species, I think. And so they're eventually going to have to move off this particular Wildtheria bush onto another one, in which case I'm going to then have to cover that one. I may eventually end up with a very large, giant, sort of all-encompassing shade cloth to look after our caterpillars, because we really do want to see them hatch into their acreas. There's one. See, it's trying to escape as we speak. Now, I'm going to have a stern word with these things, because they need to play ball, eat Wildtheria, and not try and escape. While I do that, it's not going to be pretty. There's probably going to be some very harsh words spoken. Something that looks like it would like to speak harsh words if it could is what Tayla is going to show you now.
But of course, we've got a beautiful big buffalo bull. Here we go. A little bit annoyed by all of the flies. You can see when he shakes his body. All fly off of him. There we go. That's a perfect stick for a nice scratch. He looks like he's actually just coming into the prime of his life at the moment. He's just starting to develop a dewlap, and his horns are lovely and sharp at the tips. He's got a couple of oxpeckers hanging around on his body too, and I wonder if after this he's not going to go towards Buffalo Dam, which we've just come from, and unfortunately our friends the elephants didn't join us at the dam. They moved off. But it would be a good spot for this boy to go and wallow around for most of the day. There you go. Very annoying. I think that's a combination of the oxpecker and the flies. Hello, boy. Why are you giving us the death stare this morning? You can see, look at that, staring straight down his nose. He was looking at us. Now he's listening to something else. And it's always quite intimidating, I think, being out here on your own when you are a buffalo. But I'd be a bit nervous of him, because he's an exceptional size, and, well, he doesn't look like the friendliest character. Come on, boy, we're not going to bother you. Look at how deep his horns go. Isn't that beautiful? The way they sort of dive down and then curve back around again. Oh, he's a strong boy. Now, this is a character you wouldn't want to meet on foot. It's okay, big boy. We're not bothered by you, and I hope that you're not too bothered by us either. Maybe he's had a run-in with somebody this morning, and that's why he's a little bit on edge. You carry on. You go and have a little sit down and cool off in the water. He looks like he's got a bit of a temper. But a beautiful buffalo. And he's actually quite lucky, because if his horns had actually curved up any more back towards the boss, so the big helmet on top of his head, they wouldn't be very useful as a weapon. Just because it's nice to have a gap between the tip of the horns and the boss, so that if a lion were to attack you, at least he'd have a chance to try and hook his horns into a lion. And as sad as that sounds, they've also got to try and protect themselves. And you'll often see buffalo throwing them up into the air. But every now and then you'll get a buffalo that's horns have curved too much, and then they really are quite useless. But not him. He's probably giving us an evil eye, hey? Hey, big boy? But I am so happy to see these buffalo looking in great condition. It was so hard to see them this winter, or the past 2 years, as to how thin they got. They really, really did suffer. Jeez, VM, that's a great shot here. You can really just see the size of him. The grass is actually not too long here. There's bits of it that's nice and long. But where he's standing, it's quite short. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I saw a pair of secretary birds here last week, Sunday, in the afternoon, very quickly in the same area. That's one of the reasons why I came down here. I wanted to see if we'd get lucky. They might still be around. Now, Eileen, you were wondering if there's any difference between a Cape buffalo and an African buffalo. They're exactly the same thing. They're originally known as the Cape buffalo, but an alternative name is an African buffalo, and I think it's quite suiting, is because you don't just find buffalo in the Cape of South Africa, you find them all over Africa, in Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zambia, so they're not just restricted to the southern coast of the southeast coast, or so right to the west, I suppose, of South Africa. But off he goes. Ooh, you can see there, very jumpy. Big boy, it's not us that's giving you a fright. Something's in the air that he's not happy about. He sort of looks to us, but then he also looks to the left again. So like I said, I wonder if he hasn't maybe bumped into somebody and he hasn't quite gotten over the encounter that he's had. And of course, we are big and out in the middle of the road, so he's also just keeping an eye on us. It's okay, big boy. Now, Michael, you're wondering, why haven't we been able to domesticate buffalo? It's a very good question. But I think that anybody that's brave enough to try and go and milk an African buffalo cow, well, my goodness, if you can get through that, that's wonderful. They've just got a very mean attitude. They just don't seem to want to be domesticated as well as the water buffalo, because the water buffalo domesticated exceptionally well. I'm just going to go back in Asia, and then, of course, normal domestic cows, the various types that you get, they're all right. And I think it's just got to do with their sort of attitude towards us. And I think even over time and time again, you've got to be a bit careful. My best friend, his dad, he breeds disease-free buffalo and hope to try and one day be a contributor to repopulating these areas where the buffalo are exposed to tuberculosis and foot and mouth disease. And they, in the Eastern Cape, the area that they're in is quite arid, and unfortunately there's just not enough sort of grass to sustain them, so they've started to feed them. And the last time I was there, they're not habituated. It's bizarre. They've become sort of quite tolerant of humans, but you'll see the men that go out and try to feed them, they make sure they keep a healthy distance. Because I think it would only take something small to upset a buffalo again. So they're not quite domesticated. I mean, they're just helping them by feeding them, because they breed them up, and like I said, in hope to one day be able to repopulate these diseased areas with the disease-free buffalo. But they just have a bit of a nasty streak. I think actually, I wonder if do you think he's going to go to the dam, or is he going past it now? I was hoping that he was going to turn around and actually come back towards us behind the vehicle. But it seems as though, just having a quick look, no, it seems as though he's going in exactly the same direction that the elephants are going towards. So we'll carry on. We'll keep an eye out over here very quickly though and see if those secretary birds are around. And this is a nice area. They love the long grass. And I don't know when last you all saw secretary birds, but we used to see them so often in the Eastern Cape. They'd nest up in the big currant trees. They get quite big and they make a nice sort of flat top, and that proved to be quite nice for their nesting site. They make a big platform nest, very much like sort of a vulture does, with lots of sticks. And we always used to see them, always in the long grassy areas. And it's good, it's nice for them to feed around here looking for snakes and things like that to eat. And I can't see secretary birds, but I do see an impala in the distance, so let's say hello to the impala. My goodness, we're in for another scorcher of a day. There we go. Looks like a big ram. I'm just going to go up a little bit further. And it opens up slightly and we'll get a good view. Oh no, he's running from us. Off he goes, bounding about through the long grass. Just flicking his tail every now and then. Oh, well, that's a pity. I wonder if he's perhaps not running back to his... Oh, there we go, here's another one. That's another boy. It must be a small bachelor herd around here. Is that it? No, that looks like it's it now. Off they go, back into the bushes. Oh, okay. Very nice. Not sticking around, but what we're going to do now is we're going to head towards the big open plains, and hopefully we're going to come across something around there. Maybe the Cheetah brothers are back. haven't even heard. I haven't driven for such a long time. I'm not even sure if those Cheetah brothers have reunited again. Oh, don't fly, don't fly. A European roller. Hang on, this might sit down nicely for us. Let's see if it's going to stay upon this tree. I'll just pretend like we're going to drive past. You see, you do that, and then that and they don't fly away. Oh, I don't know how nice it's going to be. We're looking straight into the sun. Oh, there we go. Now you don't have to tilt your heads anymore. Hello, yes. Like I said, you're looking at almost a silhouette of this bird now. I must apologize. The sun is directly behind these brightly, very much like that buffalo. The sun's not cooperating in positioning itself, but a lovely European roller. And I've noticed, it's actually been really interesting, for photography-wise, these are the most unbelievable rollers, unlike their cousins, the lilac-breasted roller, the purple roller, because they seem to fly away every 2 seconds or just as you get into a good position, where the European rollers seem to be a little bit more accommodating. I don't know why that is. Maybe their personality is just slightly more relaxed, but they always sit on branches right next to the road, and they don't often mind you snapping away, which is quite nice. So thank you very much for that to all the European rollers out there. Very kind of you. We as photographers and anybody out here in the bush, we do appreciate it, because you are all such gorgeous birds. But we're going to start making our way towards the plains now, and I've got my fingers crossed, hoping that we're going to stumble across something exciting. I haven't heard any updates though, but it's been a bit quiet from Brent's side, so let's go across and onto his vehicle and find out what he's up to.
Well, we were following the cheetah tracks. The cheetah crossed into Djuma, but then a large herd of zebra obliterated the tracks. There's also elephant tracks and all sorts of other tracks in the area. And then all of a sudden we just saw about 10 vultures diving down in this area. Now we're just trying to find out where they dived down. We can see some bateleurs up there. Now we can't see any vultures in the trees. Now, if there is a cheetah kill, the vultures will actually land on the ground. They're not nearly as scared of cheetah as they are of lions or leopard. So I mean, we can only see a couple of bateleurs circling there, but those vultures are like stones falling. Here we go, here are the cheetah tracks. So I wonder if the cheetahs maybe killed something and then abandoned it. Or maybe it lost its kill to hyenas. So the cheetah tracks carrying on north behind us. I can't see where these vultures have landed. Now it could be something small like a steenbok. It will be gone. The vultures might even start taking off again if they finish it that quickly. Now I've seen vultures actually, if there's enough of them, chase a cheetah off a carcass, and just a bite from that bill in the wrong spot could cause that cheetah to lose its speed. Now I'm just gonna stop here quickly and get some height so I can see a little bit above the trees. Cannot see a vulture sit. Oh, get my binoculars quickly. I think I've spotted something. Warburg's eagle. It's amazing, they dropped so quickly, and the bush is so thick at the moment. Okay, let's stay on the cheetah tracks. Let's go back. I was so convinced we're going to find something here. What I might do is loop around, So while we continue to search where the rock-like vultures are falling down to the ground, let's go all the way down to the ground with Stef.
Isn't it exciting when you know that vultures are coming down and you don't know what's there? We had the same thing a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, when we didn't find much except for a bloody patch of ground with some stomach contents in it. But nevertheless, it is really, really exciting. I can't wait to hear what Brent has found for you there. I just came here because this particular zebrawood caught my attention. It's one of these old zebraWoods that we find so often around here, but unfortunately have passed on and have died, just leaving these carcasses around, they end up standing here forever, mainly because these trees are just so hard. They literally the second hardest or the second densest piece of wood that we have out here, weigh over 1 ton per cubic meter. So a cubic meter of this wood will weigh over 1,000 kilograms. Isn't that amazing? It's a really, really dense piece of wood. But we were walking through here. We're coming up to the time of the day where we start to make our way back from wherever we are. You're stuck. This is Andre's aerial getting stuck on one of these monkey oranges. They're grabby little things, these monkey oranges. I must be honest with you. But we're probably about 2 or 3 miles away from camp at the moment. And it really has been just such a very, very nice walk. But we are going to cross over this crest over here. We haven't found those elephant just yet, so we're just busy looking for things to show you. We'll keep in touch, I'm sure, but you're off to James in the tent.
We are off to me in the tent, but let's go straight to the air with Connor and a bird. There is a batalier flying around with the drone. They're not far from here, they're just over quarantine. Now that batalier will be very interested in the drone because they do investigate what's going on, of course. And so what we have here is a situation where the batalier doesn't know what it's looking at. It's just a strange thing that's sort of hovering, making a noise. And so the batalier is going around it in the same way that Connor is going around the batalier. And now they're actually flying off in the similar direction. That is very cool. You know what, Dave, let's go outside. Can you see if you can spot them outside? The juvenile batalier. This is so cool. There we go. That's Dave's picture of the batalier flying over the top of the tent. That's wonderful. And the drone is... Davey, can you see that? There's the drone. There they are together. That is so cool. And they're now going at quite a speed with the wind off towards the north. Let's go back to the drone picture. There we go. That is wonderful. And we can tell it's a batalier from the way its wings are turned up like that and the way it's trying to balance in the air. That's great stuff. The batalier has decided it is not interested in the drone anymore and is now going perhaps to look for whatever it was that was creating the consternation with the vultures around where Brent was. Oh, hang on, he's turning back. Just searching low level for... well, whatever sort of carcasses it can find. Now, while we're watching it fly, I hope we can maintain this picture. This bird flies differently from something like a vulture in some ways. And what it does is that it's flying much lower down to the ground. This one's quite high for a batalier, but not very high. I think we've lost that breakup, I'm afraid, simply because Connor had to fly quite a long way away. I think it is gone. You had a fly on the bone. Oh, fly on the bone. You gotta love the fly on the bone. Very nice. Fly. Get it? Connecting to flying bird. Very good. That is fantastic. I will get back to my batalier story now. I don't know what kind of fly that is. If it thinks it's going to find anything to eat there, I think it's sorely mistaken. What I think it's doing is eyeing David and Thandi and I, thinking, wonder which one of them is going to be the sweatiest. How lovely. Okay, I'm going to tell you my Battalier story a little bit later because Tayla has found something, well, just a little bit more exciting than the sight of my talking head.
More elephants, more elephants. I'm so excited. I said to Wiem as we were driving, we saw all these footprints in the tiniest little elephant dung you've ever seen, probably from that one that's just moving off into the distance now. And I thought we have to bump into them because they are so fresh tracks, such fresh dung. And now they're coming for a drink. And hopefully I'll be able to go around to the other side of the dam. I'm just obscured at the... Oh, not obscured. We've got one big elephant cow that's decided that she doesn't want to move. She's just going to stand there and pretend to feed and watch us. And they've had a mud bath already. They've obviously been in a smaller pan, splashed about. And on hot days like this, elephants will drink a number of times. They won't pass water and just sort of say no. They know that they might not have another sip for quite some time. So they make sure that they get as much as they can. Come on, girl, please move away. Move towards the water so we can go around and have a look. I was really hoping some of those little ones were going to go right into the middle of the dam. And they may still. They may still go and do that. As you can see, she's sort of just pretending to feed. She's putting a little bit of food into her mouth. And she's a big girl, but she's keeping a very, very close eye on us. There we go. Now she's settling down again. That's better. And often elephant bulls will do that, is they sort of pretend to feed. And then before you know it, they're standing right next to your vehicle going, hello, I'm not actually too happy with you. But she seems to have calmed down now. But the rest of the herd's very relaxed. They don't seem to mind us at all. They're having sips of water. And we've got a lovely rear view of what's happening. And we're at 3 in a row pan, just in case you were wondering. If you watch this Ellie now, it's quite interesting what she's doing. So you can see she's swatting. Not only she's trying to get the sand off, she's actually using that piece of shrub as a fly swatter. And it's so funny because it reminds me of Herbie. Every time after a walk, Herbie breaks a guarri branch and he starts smacking himself with it on his legs just to try and get rid of some of the ticks, all the little pepper ticks that we'd walk through. And it's amazing how they're able to do that as well. Now, as we look at them feeding, drinking, Doe and Winnie, you're wondering if elephants eat all types of different grass. They do indeed, and it's not just restricted to grass, though at this time of the year, when it is available, it is their favorite thing to feed upon, and they are predominantly grazers. But as you know, the grass is often the first thing to disappear when you're out in the bush, especially around these watering holes. It doesn't seem to last for too long, and then they have to move on to other things, leaves, bulbs, fruit, like all the marulas you've seen in their dung at the moment. And then as that water starts to disappear and the vegetation gets more and more harsh, they'll even, resort to feeding on bark on the trees. Not their favorite, but they sort of have to, and we see them doing it in the winter months when it is dry. But now you won't see too many elephants pulling the bark off of trees. Come on, girl, I'm just desperately waiting for this Ellie cow to move out of the way so that we can go and watch them. But she doesn't want to move for us. Come on, girl, be kind. Please, we just want to admire how beautiful you all are. And maybe if you go stand there and splash yourself with some mud, you won't have the flies bothering you so much. Now, Tris states, you were asking on this fine summer's day. No, I've completely forgotten what you were asking. Why do I do this every time I'm about to say it? And then, as the words are coming out of my mouth, the words just disappear completely. How terrible of me. Sorry, you were asking, do they eat mud for minerals? They do indeed, and it's known as geophagy. I often see them, I've seen rhinos and things, and even elephants, young elephant calves, actually mouthing on termite mounds. But they'll put a bit of mud into their mouth. I don't think it's too tasty, but especially on the harsher conditions, maybe there's some nutrients that they are lacking. VM, should we try and very quickly sneak around and see if we can get a view from the other side of the dam? let's see what they're going to do. I'm just going to sneak along over here. There's one Ellie going in now, and I'd love it if we could get the sun on our side and have a decent look. Oh, there's a couple of little holes here. I'm just giving him a little bit of a distance, but we're just going to go on the other side of this dam. Here we go. This is beautiful now. Hi, guys. Yes, that's much better. Here we go. And you can actually see how deep the water is now. That's quite nice. I was always wondering how deep this dam gets, and it's lovely. I don't think as deep as these elephants would like it so that they could swim around. But for... Careful not to splash that water too hard. We've got to save it. Oops. And you can also see now that elephant dung floats. Oh no, that's terrible. But this is also one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to go swimming in some of these dams. Okay, she's just... No. It's like she wasn't enjoying it, now she's chasing it away. Get away, you dung. Get out of my water. Look. That's so funny. I don't think she's actually doing that. She's just enjoying splashing about. Oh, lovely. Thank you for that, Madam Elephant. You made me have a good chuckle this morning. Very quick swim, not wasting too much time. I really thought that the rest of them were going to go in. That one, the little one didn't even have a roll around. Listen, if I was an elephant, every single time I'd pass the water, I would go and... little floating bobbly bits. I would go into the water and roll around as often as I could. That was very funny. And off they go to the next one. Let's follow them for a little bit. This is lovely. So there's one more pan. I don't know if they're going to go past it or if they're going to stop and perhaps have a little play around in there, but we're going to keep following them. I'm going to send you off to Stef, and well, I wonder if he's got any more creepy crawlies to show you.
I have got more creepy crawlies that I know what to do with, and hence me beating my legs. Between the flies and the ticks today, I'm just being assailed by everything. And so, this is what walking does. You get rid of the biting flies. My fly swatter has managed to weather the storm incredibly well today. I've been using it now for well over an hour, and it's just having a most amazing effect on just reducing my frustration at the flies today, which is a good thing. And of course, because it's so long, I'm able to keep Xongile and Herbert also fairly free of flies, depending on how violent it goes. Why are we here? Because I want to come and see this tree. This is one of my favorite trees on Djuma. It's not a particularly big tree. It's a specimen. It's a weeping boer bean tree that is growing on top of a termite mound, but I have a particularly fond memory of this tree since the first time I walked Quarantine, the male leopard. Karula's previous litters, one of her cubs, was on top of this termite mound. He was sleeping on the side of this termite mound, and myself and Scott at the time, who was filming me on foot back in the early days of the bushwalk, we came through the bush. We were hiding. I just want to see if I can show you where we were standing. We were standing at that grey tree, the first grey tree that you see just here, the apple leaf tree. We were standing underneath that apple leaf tree, the one you're looking at there now, and literally just a couple of steps away, there was no more. I mean, it's about 60 yards. Quarantine male leopard was lying right here in the shade. He was right here. I'll never forget. And he was fast asleep. He didn't even know we were there. We watched him probably for about 10 or 15 minutes, I can't really remember. And then Hayden Turner, who was here at the time, busy doing some drives with us leading up to, I think it was a TV show at that particular point. He came and he watched Quarantine for the rest of the day. So I just have this really nice soft spot for this particular tree. And also from up here, nice view across the valley that is the Mulwati. That is where we've been walking today. Pretty much everything that you can see there. We've been up onto the crest, down into the drainage line. We've walked through on some of the roads today. Walked through the middle of some blocks, tracked a lion for a little bit, tracked a herd of elephant for a little bit, beat many hundreds of thousands of flies to death with my fly swatter, and are now on our way back to camp. We should be there probably in the next sort of half an hour or 45 minutes or so, not too far away from here. And I just, almost every time we pass this particular tree, I have the nostalgia associated to that particular sighting return. And on a day like today where we can actually walk up the side of this tree, it just makes it all the better. Very, very, very nice tree. Now, these trees this year didn't flower particularly vibrantly. The weeping boerbean trees this year, there were one or two that had showy bits of flowers. In areas where there was a lot of water, but not nearly the amount of flowers that I was hoping to see this year. Hopefully next year will be a little bit better, considering we had a bit more rain than we did. But yeah, just a nice tree. Let's see if we can get some of this. Sometimes they have these sap runs and you can collect their resin basically, and that resin there has a nice sweet taste, almost like a sugar drop. I've just a bit of sweets for this morning. Alright, we'll probably catch up with you in a little bit or later, and you're off to James in the tent.
Coming in hot. That is a line that Connor Teagues had to use for a drone promo that we did. I also had to give some very, very excited racing over the drone. The wild dogs are on the hunt. They've caught a huge scrub hare. They're going to ripping it to pieces. That's not obviously how we speak normally. Maybe that drone promo you will see at some stage. The editor Egbert is currently sitting in the final control right now, shaking his head in despair, either at me or I'm not sure what else. Okay, so we've got something quite interesting underneath the microscope. Now, I'd quite like your help in identifying this thing. People have been willy-nilly going around calling these things, and there have been quite a few of them around of late. They've been calling them glowworm or firefly larvae. Now, I don't know if that is the case or not. I'm not convinced that it is. Sorry, I cannot... Sorry, Kirsten, come back to me if you don't mind, before I fling this microscope out of the thing. Oh, now it's broken. There we are. Now I'll be able to control it. Yes, I'm sure, Kirsten, I'm sure I can control it now. No, I'm not. No. Why can I? It's so impossible. All right, there we go. Okay. So, I mean, I can't find a better explanation for what this thing is. It's having a drink right now, and it might actually be stuck in the water. I'll release it shortly. But I think it is a firefly larva. Now, a firefly, of course, many of you know, the most romantic kind of an insect, makes that beautiful green light during the course of a night, either to attract mates or to attract potential prey. And when they're young like this, it's normally to attract prey, because if you look on the front of this thing, that's the bit to the bottom left, it's got some fairly substantial mandibles there, which it uses to catch things. Now, many of the adults do not feed at all. They don't even have mouth parts. And so they can spend several years in this larval stage, and they will sometimes produce the luciferase and luciferin reaction that happens at the bottom of the abdomen that makes them glowworms or fireflies. I am not personally convinced that that's what this is, but I can't find anything else for what it could be. So anybody out there, #SorryLive, questions at WildEarthTV, please do tell us what you think this is, if you think this is not a glowworm or firefly larva. Now, we've got wonderful insect books here, but unfortunately many of them show only the adult form, and of course most insects, or many insects, spend most of their time as larvae. They don't spend time as adults too much. Right, we have some wonderful questions for Thandi. The first one, Thandi, rapid fire. Do you see wildebeest too much?
Yes, we see a subspecies called the Cook's wildebeest, which is endemic to the Luangwa Valley.
Cookson's wildebeest, how does it differ from our wildebeest?
The color itself, it doesn't look as dark as blue wildebeest that you see in most other documentaries.
But it's, it's the same species, different subspecies as the one that we get here and the one in East Africa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, very nice. Then Raquel, how long are you going to be with us as a guest, Thandi?
I am leaving on Monday, but it's been a wonderful time spending with you guys.
Raquel, basically the answer is not nearly long enough, I must say. And I'm hoping that we can convince Thandi to come back again at some stage. Right, Joshua, what was the biggest male lion you've ever seen?
The biggest male lion was, I think he weighed around 220 kgs and he was in Sefu sector in Zambia.
I like that answer because we're often told that, male lions weigh 250 kilograms.
No.
No. I'd say 220 is a big animal, right?
He was pretty big. I mean, we struggled to lift him up, to hook him up to the scales. But yeah, not nearly as 250.
I reckon then our Birmingham boys are probably around 180 to 200 kilograms, maybe closer to 180, which is round about 400 pounds, I guess.
Okay.
Yep, good. Very nice. Michael, what's the most fascinating thing you've captured on your camera traps, Thandi?
Fascinating thing, I think a disproportionate amount of mating porcupines. But we've also seen, what are they called? Aardvarks that I've never seen out, driving around at night. So, yeah, it was pretty good to see that many aardvarks.
Do you do a lot of night stuff?
We're out at night a lot following the lions on hunt follows because that's when most of them are moving. So, yeah, we're awake as long as we can keep up with the lions.
Right. That can often be the most tedious and most important part of lion research, I imagine. Then a nice one from James. You want to know about the wild dogs that you have in Zambia and what the population is there.
Okay. So for Zambia, the population estimate for the whole country was, I think in 2007, it was around 400 for the whole country. But we think there's more than that. Because just in our area in the valley, we've identified around 220 individual ones, and that's definitely not all of them. We hear stories of, really big groups that we've just, narrowly missed most times. So I think it's nice there could potentially be more.
What's interesting there is that we often say that the Kruger has the biggest population of wild dogs of any protected area. That's clearly not true. I mean,
what's the population?
It's only about 350.
Okay, I think the Kafue in central Zambia could have around that much or maybe slightly more, but it's a huge place. We haven't studied.
And there could be more around South Luangwa as well.
There could be more in the whole of the Luangwa Valley, because our dogs, they move further north from where we are, and we get new dogs moving into the
And again, on the western fringes of the Luangwa, you said there was an escarpment. There is settlement there. Are there quite a few people there? Or
there is settlement on the other side of the escarpment.
But there are still vast swathes of unoccupied and unresearched and unsurveyed land.
There's just a huge area. The whole lot of Zambia, there's about 31% dedicated to conservation, but there's still a lot of it that we are yet to explore. In the valley itself, we haven't nearly done as much as we need to.
31% of a country dedicated to conservation in an area like Africa is massive. I think South Africa sits at about 11%, if no, 9%. And I think the recommendation, who came up with a recommendation like this, I don't know, is 11% of a country. So Zambia is doing a particularly spectacular job there. So potentially more wild dogs there than we have here. But who knows?
It would be nice to
find out.
Good idea, definitely.
Good. Let's head back across to Brent Leo Smith. I'm just seeing that he is now driving in the blazing sun. Please ask him what it feels like out there in the sun. We're in the shade.
James, it's wonderful, I'm getting my vitamin D. That's why I'm a much happier person than you are. Well, we got a spider web. Now, the last track of that cheetah was heading sort of northeast towards quarantine, so we came here. So every now and then those random cheetah appear on quarantine. So I was hoping, Ephraim just went past and left some dust for us. So I was hoping that there would possibly be some tracks on the western edge. They're not, so my conclusion is that that cheetah is somewhere between Zoe's Road and Impala Plains still. So there's a good chance it might pop out a little later. Oh, well, we're just going to say a goodbye very quickly from the Killer Bees. It's been Killer, and we will see you tomorrow morning. It is a private rehearsal this afternoon, but let's go quickly across to Tayla, who's got some cavorting pachyderms.
We do have some cavorting pachyderms, and they are swimming around in one of the smaller pans of 3 in a row pan. But isn't this absolutely lovely? All the little ones are underneath the water. There's actually a whole lot more elephants than you can even see. There we go. There's a little one appearing now. And there's even another one in between those two. You can just see its trunk coming up every now and then. Isn't this amazing? I love how they've chosen the smallest one. And I think why they've chosen this little pool rather than the others is it because there's quite a lot of mud in here. The others were great for drinking. This one was alright for drinking, but not now, seeing as though they've stirred up all the silt from the bottom. But it's lovely. So they're getting 2 in 1 here. Not only are they cooling themselves down nicely, but without even having to suck up the muddy water through their trunks and spraying it on their bodies, they're doing it by just swimming and covering themselves completely. Look how happy they are. Look at that one. Look at them going right underneath. I love it when their little trunks pop up, little snorkel. And this is what we're going to see so much of, and I hope we do get a little bit more rain just to keep these pools like this one topped up. And I'm actually impressed as to how deep it is. Probably about the same depth, actually maybe even a little bit deeper. No, hang on, she's sitting down. Hey, let's see if she's going to stand up. So it's actually not too deep, but just deep enough that they can roll around and completely submerge themselves. This is my absolute favorite, is seeing the happy elephants in the water. And you're blowing chocolate bubbles now. And I hope you're taking lots of screenshots. Remember to send them in, #SafariLive. On Twitter is probably the best way that we'll be able to see them. Otherwise, keep them for yourselves in an album. Like I said, because it's going to happen so quickly where everything's going to dry up again and we will be back to the desert. And we won't be able to see things like this until the following year. Oh, look how happy they are, having a little cuddle in the water. Come on, jump onto your sibling. And they love to do that. They love to wrestle with each other too. There they go. Now they're pushing and shoving each other around. Oh, that one's loving it because it's got all the space in the world. Whereas those 3 are all squashed up in the corner. Well, there's 2 on the right are very clever elephants. They've got the entire pan to roll around in. No one to bother them. But it's amazing how not all of them want to go in the water. And I'm sure it's like people. Some people prefer swimming more than others. Okay, little ones. Hello. Oh, you guys are beautiful. Thank you so much for this, elephants. I'm so glad that we decided to stick with them. Isn't this wonderful? I wish I could go and join them. Don't you, VM? VM says no, he's not keen on the parasites. I think that's because he's walked into a whole tick nest yesterday, which I feel terrible about. But sadly, that's all the time we've got for you here with these swimming elephants. But it's been an incredible morning. And don't forget, I didn't forget the picture. Sadly, I may have possibly deleted it off my phone, but I shall maybe post it a little bit later. Otherwise, I'll show you again on the next drive. But for myself and VM, it's been absolutely wonderful. I'm going to leave you with one quick last view of these elephants, but we'll catch you soon, and we'll send you over to James.
Okay, right, here we are again. Last minute of the show. One more question for Thandi, which I thought was a really good one. Have you ever felt endangered by lions? That's from Erica. An obvious question for somebody who spends a massive time in the bush.
Erica, no, not really. I think when I was training, I was told from the get-go to be super careful and respect the personal space of the animals I'm working with. So, I keep all that in mind and I felt pretty safe, I think.
That's good. I mean, it's a big thing out here. I try and play down the amount of threat that there is here. Animals potentially dangerous. No animal out here is inherently dangerous to us, and I think it's quite important for us all to realize. Right, we're going to take to the air in 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That's it. That's going to be it from us today. Thank you for joining us in the tent, on foot, on the 2 vehicles. No drive this afternoon. Watch the trees, Connor. I'm afraid we will be on private rehearsal, and then tomorrow morning, of course, we'll be on TV an hour or half an hour later than normal. So that will be Sunday evening, 11 p.m. Nat.Geo Wild in North America. See you then. Bye bye.